Hi everybody, I'm Miss Rachel and welcome to Cap at Home and Go Detroit, and today I'm going to show you how to make an exploding box. So let's hop over to the table so I can show you what you need and how to make it. Alrighty. Ooh, ooh. Line it up. Alright, before we get started, of course, I would like to thank you so much for joining me today for our art tutorial, and I would also like to acknowledge our sponsors, Community Education Commission of the City of Detroit, and General Motors for allowing us to come here on Facebook every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 4 o'clock to show you different art tutorials. So let's jump right in. This is the box that we're making today. I'm not going to show you how to decorate it today. I'm just going to show you how to make the box. And then next Monday, we'll come back together and I'll show you different ways to decorate it. So here's our box. This black part is my top and the red part is the bottom. And when you pull it off, it kind of explodes out like that. So this is what we're doing today, just the box. So you may have seen something like this before, and I thought it would be a great thing to do right before Valentine's Day. So you could kind of make this for whoever you want to give a gift to. And it's like a huge, huge card. So I'm going to show you how to make this with and without these corner pieces. So you might have a box that's just like these pieces, which you have seen like a lot of, or you can keep the corner pieces in there, and I'll show you how to fold them up to make it all come together. I think it folds together a little easier without the corner pieces, but it is up to you because this is your art project. So I'm going to collapse this together and grab our tools. So you are going to need just a few things today. You're going to need a ruler. I have 2 different rulers to help me out today, but you only need one. You will also need pencil and an eraser. You'll need something to cut with. I have my trusty cutting mat underneath everything, so I'm going to use my blade because I'm comfortable with that. But if you have not used this before and you don't have parent supervision, go ahead and just pull out those scissors because this is really all you need. And then to actually make the box, you're going to need paper. I would suggest something heavy like a cardstock, but if you don't have that, then you can make it work with construction paper, but you may want to use something like this cereal box to back it. Okay, so I'll show you how I made my box, and then I'll show you another method if you don't have the poster board in big sizes like I do, and you just have 8.5 by 11. I'll also show you how to get this together with that kind of paper. So let me slide this stuff out of the way. Oh, 1 minute. Alright, so let me get my chair in place. So we're going to start with the outer layer. I'm going to use this to show you where we are. This outer layer, my red layer, is a 12 by 12 inch sheet of paper or construction board. Sheet of paper or poster board. I use poster board because it's really sturdy. So they sell these for like $1 at Dollar Tree. So I'm going to grab what I have. They usually come larger than this, but I've trimmed it down so you can see what I'm doing in the camera. So you are going to do this for each layer. You're going to cut your paper down to the size that you need. So for the outer layer, we need a 12 by 12 inch square. So I'm going to use my ruler to measure that out so that I can cut this board down. And I'm using recycled poster board. I've used this for something else and then pulled some stuff off. So I'm just going to use these little messed up areas as an opportunity to really flex my decorating skills a little bit later on. So if you are also using something recycled, then don't worry about these little areas like this, because you can decorate, color over it, and all of that next week. So I'm lining up my ruler with the edge of my paper, and I've lined up the 0 point in this corner, and then I'm going to come over to 12 and make a little mark. Let me make sure you can see that on there. So I have a tiny little mark at 12 inches right there. So you can see kind of. And then I'm going to do the same thing right across from it at the top of the paper or poster board. And then I will connect those two marks with a straight line. So I'm lining up my rulers using the marks that I just made, and I'm going to lightly draw a line so that I know where to cut. So, stand up here, and since I'm using my cutting knife, I'm going to use my metal ruler so that I don't slice into my ruler. And I'm going to make sure that my fingers are away from the blade as I'm cutting. I'm using the edge of the ruler to make sure I get a straight cut. So my ruler isn't long enough to go all the way along the page, so I'm just going to move my paper and slide my ruler along the line that I just drew to try to continue my cut. And I like using this method because I know I can get a really straight cut, but if you have scissors, go ahead and use them and just carefully cut so you can make your cut as straight as possible so that you get a neat project. So I just measured along this edge here. So now I measured from this corner or this edge to this edge. So I know this is 12 inches. And I can always measure twice just to make sure. So now I'm going to measure along my longer edge to cut that down to 12 inches. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up my ruler, the 0 point at the bottom corner, and then I see where my 12 inches falls, way over here. And I'm going to make a little mark. Then I'm going to go up to the top and do the same thing. Line up the 0 point with the edge over here. Make a mark at 12 inches. Use my ruler to connect those points. And then cut it down to size. Line up my ruler, my metal ruler, because I'm going to be using my breakaway blade. There we go. Alrighty. And my scraps, I'm going to keep them. And I forgot to mention this in the materials, but you'll want to have a Ziploc bag or some kind of envelope or something to keep your scraps, because they will definitely come in handy next week when we start to decorate our box. So you don't want to throw them away quite yet. So now we're going to draw a tic-tac-toe board on this paper so that we know where to fold this so that it becomes a box. So there is a little math involved, but I have done it for you, so don't worry. So we're going to divide each side up into 3-inch squares so that we have 9 squares like a tic-tac-toe board, like I said. And since we've measured 12 inches on both sides, we know this is a 12-inch by 12-inch square. Now we're going to divide the 12 into 3 because we want 3 equal squares. And that will give us 4 inches. So we're going to line our ruler up again with the corner of the paper. The 0 is right there at the edge. And I'm going to make a mark at 4. And then if I add 4 more to that, I'm going to make another mark at 8. And that will give me the beginning of my checkerboard. So do the same thing at the top. Make a mark at 4 and then mark at 8. And then turn your paper so that you do the same thing for all of the sides, because that is going to give us the tic-tac-toe board, or help us make the tic-tac-toe board that we need. So really, it's not that difficult. You just have to have some patience when you're doing this. And this part is going to be easier for older students. But if you help a younger student, they can get to decorating next week, because that is the fun part and you don't need to be super technical with it. So right now I'm going to match my lines up the same way that I did when I cut my whole paper out. I'm going to match up my marks and draw very lightly, draw my lines that will make the tic-tac-toe board to help me fold this. So I'm not pressing down real hard because I don't want these lines to be super visible, although it doesn't make a huge difference if they are, because you're going to cut along these lines. So you should have something that looks like this. Hopefully you can see my tic-tac-toe board. And if you want to keep the corners in here, you can do that. So you will do no more cutting. You'll just fold everything right now. So bringing this back. So if you want to keep the corners in here, you'll need to add a diagonal line in each of the corner squares to help you fold this into place. So you will just line up your ruler from one corner to the next, all the way across the page, and then draw diagonal lines in only the corner squares. Skip the middle square. You don't need diagonal lines there. So I'm drawing it from the corner piece all the way out. And I'm going to do the same things. So this is if you want to keep the corners in there. And if you want to make it extra special for Valentine's Day, I'll show you a little trick. So, in order to fold this, one easy way to do that is to use your ruler and your closed scissors to make score lines. And score lines are just kind of pressing down into the paper to help you fold it. So just, you want to line it up and make sure that you're making your score line directly on your, what's this called? Pencil line that you drew. So it may take a little time to do that, but once you do it, you'll be able to fold this super neat. So you want to take your time and do that to each one of your lines. So I have something else. If your scissors aren't working that well for you, you can grab a ballpoint pen or even a toothpick or something. But I have this little tool from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use that because it doesn't tear up my paper as much as the scissors do. So you just want to press down and retrace all of your lines. So now that you've done that, you're going to make sure you do your diagonal lines if you're keeping the corners in. So on one side, I'll keep the corners in, or how about I keep the corners in for the ones diagonally across from each other, then I'll cut the other ones. Cool. So now everywhere that you kind of made your score lines, you will fold. Just turn your paper and make sure that you have folded all of your lines. So I made score lines along, not along that one, but along this diagonal, I think. Let's see if we can fold it. Yep. And I can kind of push that into place. And just take your time and push it however you need to. Okay. So, one thing I like about keeping these corners in here is you get the opportunity to do something a little funky with them. They don't have to be squares. You can, along this folded edge, you can cut and make it look like a heart. So how would a heart look in here? A heart would look like this. So I kind of just sketched half of a heart, just freehand, and I only did it on one side. And now I will fold this and use my scissors to cut along that line. It's going to be a little awkward. I'm just cutting along my drawn line so I can get my heart. And then when I open this up, it will look like a heart instead of just a square. Oh, and I'm also going to cut that off too, but I think I'll do that when I open it up to make it a little easier on myself. Because this is a little awkward. And make sure you're not going to cut your fingers. Turn the paper so that it's comfortable for you to cut. So you're starting to see my heart. And I'm going to cut right along this line here to cut that extra off. There we go. And these tiny little scrap pieces, I know I won't use, so I am going to throw those away. But the straight pieces that I got from my larger pieces of paper, I'm going to keep because those will come in handy. So put those in the trash right away. See? Now we have a heart. But if you don't want the corners in there at all, then you will just cut along these solid lines, the straight lines, with your scissor or whatever cutting tool you're using. Just like that. Spin that around a little bit and then it should come off. And you can keep these squares because these will come in handy when you're decorating. You can stick them back on here or trim them down to make them picture frames or something. So make sure this is something that you keep in your little baggie. Put it away. So you'll do that for all of the corners that you want to cut out. If you want to keep your corners and just make them hearts, then you'll do what we did here for all 4 corners. And you can do that for any layer. It doesn't have to just be the outer layer that we're doing right now. And the outer layer is the bigger layer, the one that's on the outside of the box. So I'm going to slide this to the side and show you how to do the other 2 layers. The only difference is really that you start with a different size sheet of paper. We started with a 12 by 12 inch sheet of paper for this layer. Now we're going to move down to a 10.5 by 10.5 inch sheet of paper. And you'll do pretty much the same thing that we did with the scoreboard. Or not, I'm keep saying different kind of board. Not scoreboard, tic-tac-toe. But for 10.5 inches, it won't be 4 inches. You will make your marks at every 3.5 inches. So line your ruler up. And you'll make a mark at the 3.5 inch mark. And then 3.5 plus 3.5 is 7. So you'll make a mark at the 7 inch mark. So just do that for all of the sides of your paper. And then you'll do your tic-tac-toe board thing again. and score your lines and cut your corners. So like I said, my paper is recycled, so it has some mucky stuff on it. So I will just use that as an opportunity to really pump up my decorating skills next week. But I'm not going to worry about it today. I'm using my score tool instead of drawing those lines out. I'm just going to make sure I go ahead and score them so I can fold it. So you'll want to be kind of careful with however you're making these scoring lines, because your poster board can get torn up a little bit. But it's okay. And then fold those. And then you'll cut out the corner pieces, and I'm going to do that with my knife. And I can see my scoring line, so that's what I'm cutting along right now. And I'm going to cut out each of the corners. And make sure I save these squares, because they will come in handy later. So go ahead and you'll do the same thing with your smaller sheet of paper, which will be 9 inches by 9 inches, and that's how you'll make the smallest inside box. So when you do that sheet, your marks won't be at 4 or 3.5. They will be at 3 inches and 6 inches. So you'll make marks at 3 inches and 6 inches on each side of your 9-inch sheet. And then score it and cut it just like this one. If you don't want the corners in there and you want the box to just kind of fall open. So this is my 9-inch by 9-inch sheet. So quickly show you where we make our marks. We're going to make them at 3 and 6, and then you're going to repeat the same things that we've been doing. Make your score lines, and then fold your paper and cut the corners. So I'm not going to show you that a third time because I know you've got it. If you don't, let me know in the comments. I can always come back later on and help you out. But we are going to jump right to the top, creating the top. This is a 6 1/8 inch square by 6 1/8 inch. So you want to make a top, that is larger than, you want to make a top that's going to fit the largest box that you have. So in order to do that, I've cut this 6 1/8 inch square, and then I'm going to make the sides, and those sides are going to be 1 inch. And what I mean is the side of the box like this that comes down over the box to keep it closed are going to be 1 inch. So that means I'm going to have 1 inch here, 1 inch here, 1 inch here, and 1 inch here. How do you think we're going to do that? The same way we've been doing it this whole time. I'm going to line my ruler up 0 point over here and make a mark 1 inch from the edge. And do it again at the top. 1 inch from the edge, and then I'm going to connect those marks. Or actually, I'm just going to go ahead and do it for every single side. Just 1 inch from the edge. So over here, this is not quite at 6 inches, but I'm going to move my ruler so that my inch mark is right along this edge and make a mark 1 inch from the edge. We want to make sure we have marks 1 inch from each edge. Alrighty. And then I will draw these lines out and connect them. And it's going to kind of look like the box parts that we were making for the bottom of the box, but our tic-tac-toe board will not be nearly as even. It will have a very, very wide middle box with smaller other boxes. I don't know where you would normally draw the X's and O's. So this is what you want. Okay. So because I have, I've taken 1 inch from this side and 1 inch from this side, this inner square is about 4 inches. And if you remember on our largest box, these boxes are 4 inches. And when we close them up, this top part will be 4 inches. So that's why we did, that's why we started with the 6 inches. So we could take 1 inch off each side, which equals 2 inches, and have a 4 inch box top to cover this. So hopefully that little bit of math makes sense to you. What we're going to do now is score our lines so we can fold them into place. So I'm going to use my scoring tool and carefully trace my lines. And then fold this into place. So you will need some tape or glue at this point, but if you don't have it for this tutorial, it's fine because we can tape the box top together next week as we decorate, because it's probably better to leave it flat so that it's easier to decorate. So now I'm just going to cut from the edge right to the 1 inch line, not past it, cut very carefully. Then I'm going to turn my paper and do the same thing for each corner. And this is going to help me form my top. So I should have these little tabs on each side. Okay. So you have a little tab on each side, and you'll be able to fold it because you made your little score lines. There we go. And now you can lay it all flat and fold your box top, all of the score lines. You can kind of just fold it in and then unfold it. And maybe you can start to see your box top forming. And so now I'm going to fold the long edge in, then fold my little tab in, and do the same thing all the way around. And this little tab is where you would add your tape for the box top. And I'll fold all the tabs on the inside, kind of hide them. So now we have the skeleton of our box, but everything should still be flat and nothing should be glued together, because that's going to make it easier for us to decorate next week. So you'll take all of this and store it in your baggie with your scraps that we're keeping, all for decorating next week. And you'll be all set to go. So I know I'm running a little long, but if you do not have the poster board like this, and all you have is 8.5 by 11 inch paper, then you're going to do this a little bit differently. And I am going to show you how to do that. So if you've already done it with the poster board, you're done and you're ready for next week. But for those of you who are doing this with 8.5 by 11 inch paper, let me show you what we're going to do. For the outer box, we want to have 4-inch squares. So we're going to make 4-inch wide strips. So I'm going to take my ruler and measure from the outside edge, line it up at the 0 point, and then make a mark at 4 inches on the top and on the bottom of the paper. And then, oop, that's not 4 inches. And then I'm going to connect them just like that. And I'm going to draw my line. And then, since this is 8.5 inches wide, I know I can get one more strip out of this. So I will start at the line that I just drew, line up my ruler, and draw another line or another mark at 4 inches at the top. And then 4 inches at the bottom, and connect them. Then I will cut these out really quickly. So I'll end up having 2 4 by 11 inch strips. So, and I'm going to cut these down so that they are 4 by 8 inches. So now I have 2 4 by 11 inch strips, and I need 2 more of the same size. So I'm going to make my mark at 4 and then at 8. Do the same thing down here. 4 and 8. And so this is for the outer box, the largest box with the 4-inch sides. Okay. Slide my scraps over to the side. And now I have 4 strips that are 4 inches by 11 inches long. But I need them all to be 4 by 8, so I'm going to stack these and measure from one edge to the other to get it down to 8 inches. Because I have my handy dandy mat right here, I'm going to use my mat to measure. But you can use your ruler to measure right from the edge over here to 8 inches. Draw your marks and connect them so you have a straight line. And then use that line to trim your papers down. If you're not using a cutting tool like me, then you will have to do this on each paper separately and then cut it with your scissors. Save your scraps. And now, for each of these, you will need to measure to the middle of this. So you could just fold this right in half like this. Or you could actually measure and mark 4 inches. But I think doing this in half is fine. So fold them all in half. Like this. And then you're going to layer these on top of each other to create the cross shape that we cut out of our larger paper, and I will show you what I mean. So the part that makes the box is this cross shape. And in order to get that with your smaller pieces of paper, you will put one of the flaps in the middle and just have the other ones kind of hanging off to the side to create a cross shape. And that will form your box if you don't have poster board and you just have 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. So you will do this for the outer box and for the inner boxes. For the inner boxes, instead of doing 4 inches, you'll have to grab your paper, and this is the middle box that we did. You'll do 3.5. Now, so we started off with 4 to make our outer box. So you'll measure 3.5 and then 7 at the top and bottom and connect them to make your strips, and then follow the rest of the steps that we did to make these little booklet things that come together to create the box. So I know that last part is a whirlwind, so if you need help, definitely let us know in the comments. But right now we're just getting started with the box. So if you need help, reach out to us this week, because I am here to help you, and we'll help you get this box together if you only have the 8.5 by 11 inch paper. But if you have the poster board, then you're good, and you are about at this stage. And at this stage, we are going to decorate it. You want to make sure that you're not gluing anything together, because it's a lot easier to decorate if all of the layers are separate. Believe me, I've done this a couple times. So make sure you have everything all together, pack it away, clean it up, because I won't be back until next Monday. So make sure you're storing this in an area where it will be safe until next Monday, so I can show you how to finish this up. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I know we went a little long, but it's going to be worth it in the end, I guarantee you. Thank you to our sponsors, the Community Education Commission of the City of Detroit and General Motors. And remember to join us every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday here on Facebook at 4 p.m. for new art tutorials with me, Miss Allie, Miss Ivy, Miss Gabby, and Miss Van. So thank you, and I hope to see you next Monday. Bye!